To get right into it, so I'm speaking with Dan Shan, who is the founder of DNA Racing NFT, which is launching tomorrow, August 15th. And we'll get more into the details of that as we go on. But I wanted to hear a little bit of your story with the NFT space, where you started, where you got the courage and the idea to launch your own NFT line, and just your whole history in the NFT arena.
Sure. Well, I originally I'm a sports bettor and I'm an originator. I originate lines for sports books. And I ran across in a Slack channel that there was a game, Zed Run, that was launching. And not launching, it was running. There was people that were trying to like bet on it and whatever in the betting Slack. And when I went there, I was like, wow, this game is amazing, right? Like this thing is awesome. You own the horses, you can breed them, all kinds of like really cool features that I really liked. So I kind of started playing that was probably like 21 maybe in 2021. And I started playing regularly. And then slowly I started developing my own tools for it, like analytical tools and horse analysis and breeding tools. And then I launched my own blood tools, what we call it. And it was like a breeding and racing private Discord with like some of the bigger stables in Zed Run. And that was an actual NFT that we sold. And that was 2022. And it was a great success. I mean, we sold completely out. Members were happy. Everything was going great. It's still going on to this day. And I slowly started to see some of the things that I didn't really like about how the NFT was working and how the tournament structure was designed and the entry fees for the horses. And there were some things that not that were wrong, just that I thought that they could be done differently and maybe to a different crowd, right? To hit a different audience than what Zed was hitting. And I had that idea, kind of threw it around, talked to a few people. Then I got with Alhambrin, and he is like a tokenomics guy that just loves the tokens and loves all the math behind the tokens, which is not really my thing. Like you say ERC 721 to me, and I'm like, okay, what the hell is that? But he's like an expert in the tokens. And it was just like a perfect mix, right? Like he could help me with the tokens and I could do all the gameplay and excitement and all the fun things that people would love to do.
So it's you and one other person who are the main leaders of this NFT line.
Yeah. Well, really, it's really just me, technically. I mean, in the sense of like the
Deploy him.
founder, yeah, he just helps me with tokens, advises me on other stuff that he knows from his years of experience in the NFT space. And then I have, four or five people that just like help with, different areas, Discord, helping me with messages, contests,
Mhm.
basic stuff.
So you said you began with Zed Run. Is this game going to be similar to how Zed Run is ran, where there's different levels of NFT that are available, and they based off performance on how like valuable they are, how there's competitions within the game, and all of that?
Yeah, it's really similar in a lot of ways. With It's a racing game. It has levels, like there's going to be the cream of the crop is going to rise, and they'll play in higher dollar tournaments than the NFTs that are less. So yeah, it's similar in a lot of ways, but it's completely different in a lot of ways too. I mean, there's tons of different formats and different things that they just haven't done or want to do.
So what was like one of the biggest reasons that you wanted to leave Zed and start your own thing? If you could just have one off the top of your head, like one thing you changed that was a big reason why you wanted to start a different one.
I think that what I wanted to do was I wanted to feed more into the gameplay as far as like getting to the top, right? Like Zed has a real structured class system where horses kind of stay in their class forever and they kind of just dominate if they're good in their class. And this game is more based on the idea of being the absolute best and fighting and challenging to be in the best spots.
So it sounds like with Zed, if you buy an NFT, it's not very upgradable. Whereas in with this DNA racing, if you bought an NFT at a certain level, would there be opportunity where it would like upgrade over time?
It wouldn't necessarily upgrade, but the traits that it has would shine through, and it would be able to move into higher classes and higher fees.
Okay. So I was reading, I believe this was on your website, and here's a line that was from it. It says NFTs will evolve and compete across various racing forms like light cycles, ponies, yachts, spaceships, and even hamsters. So I think in all the like images I've seen about your game right now, it looks like it's like motorcycles or motocross bikes. And I don't know if they're gonna, I'm assuming they're gonna be the NFTs that launch tomorrow, but it sounds like you're gonna have more launch dates in the future with different variations and like completely different NFT forms?
Well, it's really cool, right? What happens with these assets in a lot of ways is you buy these Genesis assets, which are the starters, the core of the game. And in Zed, what happens is if those core assets are not very valuable because of their traits, they have poor traits, they're dead. They're really not very useful. I mean, they try to do some things to, give them a place to play, but technically they're really not competitive. They're not what people are trying to get, right? They're not going to go up in value. You don't really see any, they're just kind of dead. I mean,
Mhm.
dead's a horrible word, but in a sense, they're just not playable. They're just not really usable.
Mhm.
So with this game, the idea is you cycle, right? You run through a seasonal cycle of this cycle is going to be the bikes, right? These F bikes are going to race. And once they run through their complete cycle, then we'll launch an expansion pack. And that expansion pack, let's say it's horses. Then you'll actually have the exact same core NFT, but it'll produce automatically a new game piece. And that new game piece will have completely different traits than your bike had. So it could be possible that your bike was really good and your horse is horrible, or your bike was really bad and your horse is great. So it helps to maintain the Genesis value by ensuring that there's going to be an expansion pack in the future that can maybe make that Genesis valuable again in breeding and racing.
And so there's only, I'm guessing there's only a certain amount of Genesis NFTs available ever. And so in the future, so is this first launch tomorrow, all the Genesis ones?
We're going to do half.
Half.
There's 6,500 total. We're going to try to do half. And once we do half, if the market's crazy and they're selling really well, then maybe we'll do some additional drops. Or if it's crazy, crazy and sells out in minutes, then we'll obviously release some more and, try to get as many on the track as possible.
Now, we've mentioned Zed Run a few times. So is there any like direct connection between these two games, or is it completely separated? Like if you're a Zed Run NFT holder, do you get any kind of special perk or any kind of, I don't know, in-game boost or any, is there any connection or is it completely separate?
Completely separate, no connection at all.
Okay.
Except for the fact that a majority of us are Zed players, right? I think there's a huge shift. Like I would say probably 70% or more of our users are going to be former or current Zed users. The thing is that you're not taking, like a lot of people kind of get the idea that it's like becoming competitive. And I'm sure in a sense it kind of is, but really the idea in Web3 is for the Web3 quality products to rise with each other, to help each other. The Red Village was very helpful. They put a few posts in Discord and a few tweets out saying that we were minting. And, if any of their members wanted to get on the whitelist, we were willing to let them do that. So there was like, there's such this cooperation, and you want these quality Web3 games to support each other because the Web3 market is so niche and so small that they really kind of have to be supportive of each other. The goal is to get people engaged in our game and at the same time be able to maybe help them, get into another game that's quality or, be able to play across different platforms.
So you mentioned, and I mean, I'm familiar with NFTs, but I'm not every day paying attention to the space. So you mentioned how a lot of Zed NFT holders will probably be the game players of your game as well. So do you know if within the Zed community, if they're not pleased with how you said like you could buy a horse and it's basically just unusable because of its skill set is poor and then you're just holding it. So is that causing players of Zed Run to like want to leave the game? Is Zed like not a sustainable game and community for that reason?
Well, I think that, as long as you have breeding and as long as you're willing to introduce different formats and different things, I think that you can still be competitive. And Zed added a layer in where they added an experience or the XP, where you get experience points, which actually can make your horse better. So some of those tokens that we're not doing as well or not as strong can actually get better in Zed Run now. So over time, they should be able to be more competitive.
And so I have a question. So like how in terms of marketing, this is a Web3 game, like you said. So marketing aspects, would you market this as a video game or would you market this as like, I think a lot of people lost trust in the NFT space because they thought they were going to buy one and make a ton of money and then a lot of them went down in value. So how do you balance that where like there's the aspect of you're essentially buying an asset in your game that has value, but it's also like a video game. You know what I'm saying? Like how there's that balance of between being a game and also like a purchasable asset type of thing.
I think that if you think of it as like as an investment tool, that's something you can just own and it's just going to appreciate over time. I would look at it probably the opposite way. It's something that you're going to buy and it's probably going to depreciate over time, right? As the game grows, you're not really going to see. But what you're going to try to do is you're going to try to use it like a rental car, right? You buy a car, it costs you 20 grand. You rent it out to people, and the goal is with renting and leasing and usage that you recover more than that cost and are able to sustain yourself and then still be able to go into the next expansion pack and maybe do the same thing.
Okay, so that's really interesting for you to hear because I feel like a lot of NFT projects were marketing as like a way where like you could buy this thing and sell it instantly for more. So that's a cool mindset shift that you have where it's like you're buying this thing and you're trying to use it to race and get money that way. So I'm correct in that sense, right? Summarizing your view.
Yeah, and the other key, component of it is it still has the keyword game in it, right? There's
Hmm.
a ton of entertainment value. There's social connections, there's competitiveness in the game, there's discovery of, where your NFT is good at, which distances does it like, what formats does it like. A lot of that is a lot of gameplay and has a lot of entertainment value as well.
So could you talk about the game itself actually? Like how is the entertainment gaming aspect of it going to be?
Well, okay, so you start with your Genesis is born, right?
Mhm.
And you don't know anything about it. All you know about it is its basic level, right? Because we have a system of F1 to F8, F1 being the strongest generally, and F8 being the weakest. But an F8 can be as strong as an F1, but generally, the average or the median of them is, they're scaled.
Mhm.
So you start step one is to discover where is it good at? Is it good at all? Right. So because we run distances that go from 1,000 meters to 2,200 meters. And each one of these assets is going to have a different distance preference. So you're going to have to figure out, like, does it like to run 1,200 meters or does it like to run 2,000? So
Mhm.
there's that discovery process. And then you're going to learn the different formats. There's formats that are designed for the NFTs that have a ton of variance. Their standard deviation is really wide, where they run really fast and really slow. So that you might need to use those formats for yours, or say yours has this strong stability where it doesn't really have a lot of variance. It just runs at pretty much one speed. So you would use a different type format for that. So there's that part where you start the discovery. And then after that, we have a season that begins. And once those seasons begin, the end goal is to make it to the grand final. Think of it like golf, right? You have a bunch of events, you stay qualified. And then if you're good enough or you win a couple of the tournaments along the way, then you make it into the majors, right? Then you go into, and then once you make it into the majors, then you're talking about, getting into the championship or say the PGA championship, for example.
Yeah, I was watching the golf event yesterday, and the guy was let's just say it was like 120 degrees out, and the guy was feeling it, but he wound up winning. Yeah, so I did see that when I was looking at your website. You're gonna have six like 2 month long seasons per year. Can anybody like does every race count towards your rating in that season, or do you need to do specific races that count towards that rating?
You have daily races that are free that you can just run and earn, some tokens or, just for fun, some breeding credits, stuff like that. And then you have paid races, which are actually a prize pool, right? Like everybody puts in $5, the winner takes everyone's money. You have that kind of stuff. And then you have actual tournaments, which are going to be actual events that are for a tournament championship. If you win that tournament championship, you earn credit towards the grand final.
You mentioned how like a race could be $5, but I'm guessing there's going to be a ton of different like levels of amount of money you want to wager.
Yeah, there's they start from as low as probably $1 in some of the really lower classes, and then they go as high as probably 25, 50, depending on what the market will bear. And then we have a really cool format that I've never seen in this gaming yet. I've seen it in poker, and it's kind of like a spin and go in Poker Stars, where you pay $10 to get in. There's three people get in, it's $10. You got $30 in the pot. Most of the time, the winner will win $20. And that $10 extra goes into a big pot and it keeps building and building. And then randomly, one of those $10 entry races will pay like 300 bucks. It's like super hot, super. People love it.
Yeah, I saw a diagram of like, I'm not gonna lie, it was very hard for me to understand. I'm not technical savvy in that whole thing, but I think you had a diagram of like how the economy of your game is gonna work, which I might put up on the screen just if people want to look at it. But I think it showed something like that, right?
Yeah, we have triggers, and every event, every race that you participate in actually creates, for simple, let's just say it creates a ticket. So every person that enters a race gets a ticket. And as soon as that jackpot triggers, it chooses one of those tickets and just pays anyone, which is crazy, right? Like, because you could be in this, racing a few races a month and not even really, playing all the time. And you could just luck out and hit that ticket and win more money than anybody that's been playing all day, every day.
Do you have any kind of models where you could project if an NFT is going to be profitable to be racing over time, if its characteristics are a certain amount, or is that just going to have to be tested throughout the game with time?
It's really hard to simulate player activity, right? Because players learn how to manipulate and players learn how to like take advantage and find edges that we haven't even thought of yet, right? So
Mhm.
it's really hard to model. I've modeled and I've simmed probably millions of different scenarios of how this thing should play out, but it really comes down to what players do, because players are very, they talk to each other. If they see one little tiny thing that they find an edge in, they're going to go to Discord and they're going to tell every one of their friends, and then they're going to attack that spot until it's not attackable anymore, until it's, all the advantage is taken out of it. So simulation is a little hard in the sense of users just jumping out and doing whatever they can to beat you. But it's
So
the same as sports books. And I've done sports books for years, right? That's the goal of bettors, to try to figure out where we're wrong.
So are you taking a lot of the principles that you gained in the sports betting industry and applying them to this game?
Tons of it, tons of it. It has a it is a game, but it has a very casino feel to it, with,
Mhm.
jackpots, grand prizes, progressives, all these things kind of give it that real kind of a casino feel. I mean, it isn't a casino, it's a game, but it has a lot of the aspects that you would think of in a casino.
I think it's this new Web3 game that is different from video games of the past. It's kind of a blend between a video game and gambling type of, it's like a crossover. There's aspects of both of them in it. Because in a normal video game in the past, you can't make any money. You buy the video game, you just play it for entertainment. And then in like an online casino or gambling or whatever, you just spend money and you know what you're doing. You're just gambling money. You could win money, you could lose money. And this is kind of like a hybrid of the two worlds, I would say.
It kind of is, but really it's a game, right? Like, because the idea is that the traits are hidden. Users don't know the traits, so they're just playing. They're exploring and discovering in the sports world. In a sports bet, for example, we put the Cleveland Browns at minus 10 points. You like the Browns, you want to drink some beers, you bet the Browns minus 10 points. You're probably, you don't have any detailed data. There's nothing that you control, right? You either bet them at minus 10 or you don't. In this, you have a little more control because you can discover, you can learn, you can be selective in the fields that you choose. There's a lot of skill involved that the sports betting world doesn't have.
So are you like an engineer since you're talking about, or did you like, so you worked for Sportsbook?
Oh yeah, I still do. I worked as an originator for a couple of years, and I've been professional bettor for, I don't know, tons of years.
Wow. So that's a super interesting topic. Because like, so you must be a math wizard then, I would assume.
I'm good at math. I'm not great. I'm more practical.
Yeah. So any tips for, I know there's a lot of gamblers out there who are looking for any tips they could get. You have any tips for anybody out there? Not like an actual bet, but just principles.
Well, the thing to think is that the way I always tell my friends that want to bet is I tell them bet big and not very often. Because the more often you bet, the more likely you are to grind away any luck you had, right? You're more like your chances of getting lucky on one roll is a lot better than your chances of getting lucky on 1,000 rolls where you were negative. So I would say people should bet big and less often instead of $10 every day, because you're just going to pay that
Responsibly
dollar.
big.
Responsibly big. There you go.
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't think it would actually be possible for a sports bettor to be profitable in the long run, but I guess you are.
Yeah. Yeah. For years.
Wow, that's interesting. I remember there was a guy on Jeopardy who, I don't know if you saw him, but he was like winning massive Jeopardy prizes. I think it was like a year or two ago, and he was some kind of sports or like casino gambler. But that's crazy. I feel like it's a very select few that can do it. That makes me think that you have like a, a skill set that not a lot of people have, whether it's with numbers or I don't know. You just sounded like it's like more practical. So that's like what, seeing situations that are just attractive to you?
It's for me, I use what's called a comparable approach. A lot of people model on like, points in the paint, pace of play, those kind of things. I use a comparable approach where I use old lines to dictate old betting lines, the closing lines that closed to dictate what the current line should be. And then I find edges in where those lines have deficiencies.
Wow, that's super interesting stuff. So I'm sure you probably want to talk more about the NFT since that's coming out tomorrow, but that just caught my attention. I think all of the stuff I'm bringing up are from your website, so I can stop saying that. But there's going to be metal, fire, earth, and water. And like you said before, there's F1 through F8 levels. But how I see it, you just said like F1 is the best and F8 is the worst. Metal is going to be F1 and F2, and I see water is going to be F7 and F8. So does that mean that all water type NFTs are going to be lower than metal, or how does that work out?
There's a few different traits, right? And there's a randomizer that generates the traits. So there's a certain range that those traits can be in. When those traits are laid out, you're going to have a higher base in the metal, in the lower numbers, and you're going to have a lower base in the higher numbers. But with the other traits, like their distance preference and their variance and their temperament, with those other traits that play into that, you can actually overcome the loss of base, right? Like having a less base by having higher variance or more distance preference. It's kind of a thing where an F1 might need one or two traits to be really dominant. An F8 might need all four.
Okay. Are the races going to have like certain environments themselves that like a metal NFT would do better than a water, or no?
Well, what we use the elements for mainly is we use the elements to decide their temperament, and we also use the elements for special tournaments and formats so that the F8s and 7s can play together. So say we have a water tournament, and it would only be F7 and F8s that are allowed to compete in it.
That makes sense. So you have a multi-token framework and a bonding curve. Can you talk a little bit about the economy and the finance of the game, and what tokens you're using and how they're working?
You have the light cycle token, which is basically like the money. It's like the money, right? And what the light cycle token does is it kind of just like funds everything, right? And it kind of controls this bonding curve. And what you're doing is you're always burning back into the bonding curve to keep the value of the game there. As the light cycle tokens are worth more because there's less, you kind of control, it's kind of like a deflationary thing. And then you have the God tokens. And what the God tokens do is the God tokens actually create, let's call it a board, an executive board. And the God token holders actually have some governance. They can actually be involved in decision making. I mean, that won't be right away. That's going to be down the road. Once the game is established and developed and really well, we're not going to have people voting on how we're going to set it up, right? Like that's not going to happen. But as that goes down the road, you're going to actually have a board of actual God token holders that'll actually be able to vote and have governance in what happens in the game.
So can you take any crypto and transfer it or convert it into those light cycle tokens?
Light cycle tokens you could just buy. You can buy directly off the bonding curve. And the way the bonding curve works is the more it buys, the higher the price goes up on the bonding curve. It just never because it just keeps burning itself back up. So the bonding curve has this crazy, it would at the end of the bonding curve's life, in order to buy one, you would need $1 trillion.
And I saw another crypto listed called like DES. How is that used?
It's basically like just like you can. I would call it more of like a tip system. It's like tips in the sense that you race some certain races, you enter races early, you earn that token, and then that token can give you discounts on your breeding.
Okay.
So it has monetary value, but at the same sense, it's I would call it tips is a good way to describe it in a non-NFT crappy way.
And so you mentioned the God token. So how would a holder get that? Would they have to win? Is it like every season winner would get one of those, or how have you figured that out?
There's 110 God tokens, and 45 of them are originally distributed in the mint when people are actually buying and creating the core. When they buy the core, when they go to mint and get the core, randomly 45 different people will earn a God token. And most people don't really have an interest in the governance or the other stuff. So I'm sure that they'll be sold and people will try to hodl them, and
Mhm.
it'll get interesting.
Is there a limit to how much one wallet could hold for that?
No,
So
no,
someone could gain
but
that.
there's still some controls because there's 110 total and there's
Yeah.
only 45 that are distributed.
What about NFTs on the mint? Is there a limit how much one wallet can mint on the mint?
So we're doing 1,000 on the whitelist, which is the people that started with us originally. Were first into our Discord. They're called day oneers.
Mhm.
And so there's 1,000 of them that go out originally on that whitelist. So those 1,000 can mint up to 50 at a time. So they mint 50, they can go back, load up again, and mint 50 again. So they can keep minting 50. Now, once we get through those 1,000, we're going to do the other half of the half. So we'll do the 2,200 that are the other part of the half, and that 2,200 will be open to the public. And we're going to do that on a limit of 50. And if that some amazingly way sells out, then we're going to take the remaining 3,000 ish, what is it, like 3,200 or whatever's left. We'll take those and we'll probably be like one per wallet, some real slow kind of, like a faucet kind of thing.
And what time does mint open?
It's going to be open at 8 p.m. New York time tomorrow,
Okay.
the
So,
15th.
so if you're watching this and you're interested, August 15th, 8 p.m. Eastern time is when the mint begins. And wait, so is that for the day oneers? So would it be after that for regular people?
It's 9 p.m. for regular people. So
Okay.
it's an hour later. So they get the whitelist people get 1 hour boost. So 9 p.m. August 15th on DNA Racing Run is when it's open to the public.
So all the links will be in the description below if you're interested and you're watching this. And I popped into the Discord this morning and I wasn't in that long, so I didn't see much, but I did see one person asking a question that I figured I'd bring up. So are all the traits and the NFT gonna be instantly available, or is there like a delay in the, because I know some projects, I think they delay if you buy the NFT and then there's a delay where you actually see the results of it. So is that instant or is there like a delay?
So what happens is you mint, you pay, and once you pay, you get a loot box, and the loot box is closed. You can choose to keep it closed and just keep the loot box, which is an NFT in itself. You can keep that. You could sell it. You could trade it. You can open it whenever you want. If you choose to open it, if you crack the box open, then you're instantly going to see your core, your F5, the color. You'll see the F number, you'll see the color, and you'll see the name of it, and you'll see if it's a male or a female, because we do have male and female breeding.
Even though it's like a motorcycle or whatever, it doesn't mail.
Yeah, yeah. It's actually, we'll see the core, like the way this game is kind of like the lore behind it is the core is like an AI. AI is like we're 1,000 years in the future, hundreds of years in the future, and AI controls everything. And they're using this DNA to inject into these machines that people can race.
Oh, okay, so that's interesting. I didn't know the backstory behind it as much. So can you actually go further and deep in that? So so the game is taking place in the future, and so the advancement of technology is what is giving the machines that level of like biology.
Yeah, so AI controls the world. There's not really any other way to compete. There's not riders, or we don't have any like humans that like are jockeys or ride these things or anything. They're just basically robots, and they have the will to win because they're injected with this DNA and then we splice the DNA to breed them.
But there are hamsters, correct?
We were talking about hamsters. I don't know if we'll do hamsters. Hamsters were kind of hot for a minute, so we considered
Uh-huh.
it.
Okay. And so, do you expect the reception of your launch tomorrow to be very good? Like I said, I haven't been fully tracking the NFT space, but I just know that it became kind of unpopular to a lot of people in the past year as a ton of assets went down.
As good as this game is, and of course I'm going to say that right because it's mine, but as good as this game is, if we launched in 21, I probably would have done 18,000 Genesis. I probably would have done 0.25 as the price, and I probably would have sold those out in an hour.
Mhm.
2023 in August, price is zero point 0.1. We're releasing 3,200, and my real, I think it's going to be, you can project, right? Like you can look at the number of Discord members you have. You can look at your followers. You can look at the interest. You can look at the number of people posting to get an idea. But I don't think we'll have a real hard time selling those out. It may take a week or so, because what happens to it, a lot of this is a lotto ticket, right?
Mhm.
You pay point one, you're trying to get an F1. Maybe you're trying to get a female, maybe you need another male. So you crack one, you might go and put it on the market and sell it as because it's not what you're looking for. And then you might sell it, get a little bit back, and then crack another one. So there'll be a lot of people that come back to the well as well.
Mhm.
And then plus once you play, right? Once you get in there and start playing, you get excited, you get addicted, you're like, oh yeah, this is awesome. And then you say, oh, okay, well, I want to try to get some stuff I want to try to see if I can get some earth, see if I can get some earth stuff, because I don't have any earth. And you kind of like build your vault. We call it a vault, where you like
Mhm.
hold all your cores is in a vault.
Yeah, just like how kids in Fortnite and they want to have the coolest Fortnite skin and they want to have all the Fortnite skins and all that. It's
Oh
just
my God. Talk about skins. Did you see our skins?
I just seen the motocross ones, I believe.
Oh, there's so many awesome skins. The guy that we have doing skins is like the best ever. And the quality of our skins for these things is just insane. And we're going to have a skin marketplace. And the thing with the skins too is they're an NFT.
Hmm.
So you get a skin, you can actually, it has utility. You can put it on the bike and look at it and see it, and it's pretty. And then you can turn around and sell it. They have rarity. There's only so many, of each kind printed and minted. So it's pretty cool.
Funny you bring that up because that's something I wrote down that I saw that you had customized skins. So people can get an NFT and then equip a skin later. They can change how the NFT looks. Or
You could change the skin anytime you want. We're going to have common skins, which will be like a large mint. Like say there'll be like 500 of them, right? That's common that a lot of people will have on the track, the same skin. And then there'll be some rarer ones. There may be 100 mint of those. And then there'll be some actual custom skins where you could put your own logo, put your own racing team information on there, maybe a sponsor.
oh,
Maybe
that's super cool.
you could get a sponsor to buy the skin, and then you'd have all yours on there with Foster Finance on it. Some whole vaults,
Hmm.
every one of their bikes would have Foster Finance on skins on it.
Yeah, so that's really cool. So like people in the community can really customize and like build out however they want to do within the game. They can kind of ingrain their life into the game. It's not just coming from the DNA racing side. Like they can request and like put in different things that they want. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely, absolutely. So like you could buy, say you bought a vault and you had a bunch of them, you could design yourself, or you could go to one of our designers
Hmm.
and you could say, hey, look, I want these. They'll give you a price, and then they'll set a certain mint amount. Like say you say I want 50 of them, they'll say, okay, here's the cost. And then you own all 50 of those, and you could sell them to somebody else or just use them on your own vault. You could do whatever you want with that. And there's another killer component to this that it's not really discussed in our stuff, but it is super important. Games like these are focused on content creators. They get a lot of their action from Twitch streamers, different people that are putting on their own tournaments. This game is designed for them. So if you said, hey, I'm going to start a Twitch channel for DNA Racing, and I'm going to have tournaments every Thursday night, and these are the conditions of my tournaments, everything is on our site for you to do that. You can literally choose and pick and choose which person races who, what the format is, and run your own tournaments and run your own Twitch stream and even be profitable. You could even charge a percentage of, the entry fees or something. So it's a huge opportunity for content creators as well.
That is super cool. So there is like a creator economy community that can get involved in the game and actually make money, like the way GTA can allows creators to create their own worlds and stuff. That is a cool aspect of it. That's big, and that makes people want to continue. Like it provides a path for the game to be popular for forever, as long as people can make money within the game. So you're right, and that's something I wanted to ask you because like we were talking before how Zed it had a huge pop, but then it didn't. It seems like it doesn't have the necessary factors to keep it sustainable for forever. So, do you have any other things that come to your mind with this game? How you're going to make it so that it's sustainable?
I try to use I think of like the nightclub thing, right? Like how many nightclubs you go to and they're so popular you can't even get in. The lines around the street, and then 6 months later it says for lease,
Hmm.
right? And that's kind of why I focused on the expansion packs, because I think people are going to race bikes. They're going to have fun. They're going to get into it. And slowly, like anything, right? You just kind of wear off of that. Like, bikes are cool, but I raced this same guy 100 times, blah, 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 whatever.
Hmm.
So boom, here it is. Now we're racing yachts. Now we
Hmm.
have these yachts, right? And these yachts might be completely different. It might not be 1,000 meters. These events might be a 3-day event from Tokyo to freaking LA.
Yeah, and then
I
when
mean,
virtual
literally like a 3-day
beyond the
race.
art.
I
Yeah,
mean, there's just like so many fun things that you can do. And I think expansion packs is basically like the nightclub analogy or casinos, right? Like look at Vegas. Every time, I mean, if you went to Vegas 10 years ago and you haven't been in 10 years, you went now, you wouldn't recognize it. And it's
hmm.
always going to be that way because people get bored. They get sick of playing the same machines. People get sick of, they want to gamble. They want to have fun. They want to be entertained, but they don't want to see the same thing they've seen the last time. And that's where I think that the biggest key here is those expansion packs.
So do you have any kind of scheduled timeline for those, or are you just gonna determine the interest in the game and how people are enjoying it, and then decide as it's going when to release new ones?
You should be able to feel it, right? When the crowd starts slowing down,
Hmm.
when people aren't as interested, when the Discord gets slower, when people are not selling or buying as much, you should feel it. But the biggest concern and biggest trigger for that will be the dilution, right? Like we don't want to dilute the game enough to where there's only 50 people playing this and 50 people playing this and 50 people playing this. We prefer to have 300 playing this, and then we can steal 100 of those to go into the new pack and hopefully, blend over.
And is there any opportunity where different, like you mentioned, yachts, and the first ones are cycles and spaceships, are they ever going to overlap, or are all those races going to remain separate for forever?
I would love to do some triathlon type stuff, right? You
Hmm.
enter an event and you got to run in all 3 or all 5 packs
Hmm.
for a tournament, that would be really cool. And it's not hard to do. Like it's something like we could totally do.
Hmm.
My 3D guy is really good and he's really fast. It's just that he is better at getting stuff done than like the total details. So in order for us to like launch a new pack, he needs to do the whole base, make sure the game simulates right, make sure it flows right, make sure things are happening correctly on the screen, and then get someone to come in and spend a month or two overlaying, adding trees, making stuff look good.
So have you had to have like a very big upfront investment since you're hiring all these people to build the game before it even launches?
Yeah, I'm deep into this game so far. Because the thing for me was this, like you said, you've mentioned it a few times already. The NFT space got scammy, right? It got to where everybody was launching something and it was going to come out and it was going to be great and it was going to be wonderful. So for my idea, my mind was, I'm credible. I want to be credible and I want to prove I'm credible. People have been playing this game for a month and we haven't sold a single piece to anyone yet. There's actual beta testers that are actually playing the game probably right now. So it was important to me to have a working product that people could actually play and use before they ever spent a penny. And that was the difference between how other Web3 and NFTs have been launched and done.
Logan Paul CryptoZoo type of thing. So how did you go about building your team for this project? Did you just like, since you were in Zed Run, you had some connections within the space and you just like sought out people that you liked the work they had done?
Almost everyone that works with me is from Zed Run.
Okay.
Almost everyone that works with me has been around Zed Run and worked and played or had some involvement with Zed Run. But I do have a UI and a 3D guy, and those all come from the sports betting world. There's sports betting connects I had.
Hmm.
Because, I mean, a lot of people don't know this, but most sports books, they spend almost 60% of their budget on UI and graphics, right? Like the big thing today in this world is everybody's got a sports book. So you got to have a better UI. It's got to be fast. It's got to be good. You got to update quickly and you got to have great graphics and great stuff because that's how sports books win in today's market. In the old days, it was who has the best line. Well, now today it's all about bonuses, promotions, and who has a cool UI.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. So you said it's in beta testing. When do people actually get to play the game on your website? Starting tomorrow with the launch?
Tomorrow we'll launch. We'll make sure everything's cute and cuddly. We'll get the counts of what we think are gonna, how many people actually cracked, open their box. We'll get an idea of what we actually have out there, and then we'll go into the UI and kind of restructure it and fit it, do a little fitting to make sure it fits to the number of people that actually are going to be active to play. And then that should take maybe a day or two. Longest push, maybe Monday. You know, then we'll actually let people in and they'll actually be able to play.
Okay, so sometime in the next week or so. Are the races of different sizes, or is it like 10 entries per race?
Oh, that's the part I love, right? We have 1v1 races where you just race against one other person. It's two. We have three, which are the ones where you have this bonus progressive pot that just keeps growing. We have fours, which are, four gates, and then we have six gates and we have 10 gates. But we have the capability for 18.
Okay.
So we can go up to 18 for like a special event or something. But basically, two, three, four, six, and eight and 10.
And so you've mentioned this bonus pot that builds from the race entries. And is that like one for the entire game, or is that for each race type?
No, it's basically like one type itself, and then it goes across different distances and different classes.
Mhm.
So it's the same type of event, just in different classes and different distances.
And are the players going to be able to see that pot and like how big it is?
No, no, no. They can't see anything.
Or it's just
Uh,
random?
it works on a way that, like, I'm just going to throw random numbers. These are not real numbers, but like 50% of the time, the winner doubles their money. They pay $10 to get in, they're going to make 20. 30% of the time, or say 35% of the time, they're going to make triple their money. They're going to make, they put in 10, they're going to win 30. And then 10% of the time, they're going to make like 60.
Mhm.
And then 1% of the time, they get like 500 or 300 or something. Believe me, they are so much fun. That format is insane because you really don't have to be like, if you're really talented, if you have a strong bike that's super strong, you can win those all day long. Like win 20, win 20, win 30. But that one lucky guy, if he just happens to hit on the one that pays 300, he made more than you.
That's what you're saying. Go big and don't go often, right?
Right.
Your background in the sports gambling world really gives you a credibility where I would be nervous with like the numbers you're saying, like, did they think it out long term? Like, is it going to be profitable, blah, blah, blah. But like the background you have would give me and someone who buys this the confidence that like you're able to do that type of stuff. Obviously, you've proven that where you've been before. So I think that's something that gives you a lot of credibility in launching this game.
Oh, thank you. I do though. I mean, I would agree with you in the sense that I understand how to structure the entertainment. I understand how to structure the tournaments. I understand how to structure these progressive type things and the other aspects from just having the experience of doing it.
And do you see any interest in the sports gambling world, like the big companies that are involved in that space, to get into this Web3 space, or no, not yet? Is it too new?
I think it's just they just don't. You got to realize, like, there's not a lot of. I'll just be honest. There's not a lot of really younger people in sports betting that are in charge.
Mhm.
Some of the youngest guys I know, like Marco Bloom from Pinnacle, he's probably 50 years old now. I mean, they're just like, he knows crypto because of having to work with crypto in the sports betting world, but he doesn't. I mean, if you told him NFTs, he'd be like, what? Oh, hell no, I don't want no stupid picture, right?
Yeah.
Like, they just don't, they need another generation to pass through, honestly, in their deep ranks. If as soon as the next generation of leaders takes over in the sports betting world, they're going to go NFT crazy, right? They're going to do like Rainmakers did, right?
Mhm.
Rainmakers are some young executives that did Rainmakers, and Rainmakers was an NFT based fantasy football game, and those guys are killing it. They crushed it. They knock it out the park. That's that's what's going to happen in the Web3 space, where they can see these opportunities, right? Where they can actually go against talented players in a player skilled environment. In the sports betting world, that's like one out of 10,000 people that they're playing against. Most of the time, they're just playing against the money, playing against the line. But in this environment, they're going to have to be better, and they're going to have to be skilled, and they're going to have to watch their game, and they're going to have to build their formats right. And once they get that and they see that turnover, they'll be all over it.
And I do have to say, like, I feel like the technology of the Web3, it's at a state right now where, I mean, you don't need to be an expert, but you need to have some level of understanding of crypto and like blockchain and all that to be able to, mint an NFT, hook up your wallet, all of this. There's just a little too much barrier to entry for it to reach everyone. And I think over the coming years that'll probably be worked out, and that's when those people will probably jump all on board too as well.
Yeah, and I think one of the big things is, and I know a lot of people are working on it, and there probably is even some beta products that are out. but this switching of chains, right? Like you want to send grandma Bitcoin, you got to go to this network, use this wallet. If you want to bet on this, uh, the Red Village, you want to play in a Red Village match. Now you got to switch to this other blockchain completely that has nothing to do with that one, and it comes from a different wallet, and it's a different denomination. Zero point zero 0.01 doesn't mean the same thing as 0.01 Bitcoin. Somebody's going to kind of come up with something that fits in that, and where it's just you're just logged in everywhere, right? Like wherever you go, and it's all in your currency or something.
It's interesting you say that because I don't know if you've heard of TBD, which is the company Block and Square. I think they're working on some kind of thing like that where a user could log on and have an identity in like the entire crypto network that would carry over, and that's kind of like what you're saying, like across blockchain and stuff like that. So it's probably coming in the future, a couple of years down the road. I guess there's a ton of difficult problems to solve before that's like fluid, but
Yeah,
yeah.
and if you could solve that one, right, then they could use it for their sports books, right? Like
Mhm.
you could bet here with this currency and play this game that's ran by them with the same currency, and maybe even the accounts are credit back and forth to each other, or it's all one account.
Mhm.
There's a lot of that stuff's coming. Come on, these guys are
Yeah.
smart, man.
And when there's money, there's a way. Not when
Oh yeah.
there's money. um, yeah, so it's all been really interesting so far. I don't think I have any questions I had written down left. If there's anything that you really wanted to mention that I didn't hit on, feel free to say it right now. But I think that kind of answers all the questions I have, and it seems like a really interesting game, and I'm going to be interested and excited to see it launch and how it does.
Great, I appreciate it, man. No, I don't have anything else. It's great. It was a great interview. I felt like we got a lot of information out there. It's awesome. I appreciate
Yeah,
it. Thank you very much.
thanks for coming on, and good luck, and I'll talk to you in the future, maybe.
I'll see you
Hopefully.
on the track.
Yep. See you there. All right.
All
Thanks for
right.
coming again.